Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you've joined us for the first edition of the Cozy Corner podcast. We're not really 100% sure how this podcast is supposed to go, but the intention is that we answer common questions that we get from our clients in a way where you get perspectives from five different counselors, and that this would be useful for you when you're deciding to either book with a counselor or start counseling, or even just think about it as something that might be part of your work in the future. So, in this first episode, we're going to be talking about some of the most common questions that we get, as well as like New Year pressure. It is September at the time of recording, and I don't know about you folks, but September always feels like the new year to me versus January, because I think we've all been indoctrinated in the school system where September is the time you go back to school and then, your life significantly shifts. So, talking a little bit about that as well. Seeing as this is our first episode, though, do we maybe want to do an intro? Anything that might feel important for folks to know about you?
I'm Parveen. I have been adventurous for 3 years now. I primarily work with body image, self-image, self-worth, and also anxiety and life transitions. My modalities that I use most are art therapy and somatic work, specifically sensory motor psychotherapy. I also draw from two theories mostly, which is acceptance and commitment therapy and self-compassion.
What does that mean? Acceptance and commitment therapy and self-compassion.
This is the part I'm always bad at in my consult. So the way that I use it. So ACT, or acceptance and commitment therapy, also known as ACT, is comes from this perspective that all of our thoughts and feelings are there for a reason. So rather than these are negative thoughts that we need to get rid of, it's more about like how do we shift our relationship with those thoughts so that it doesn't pull you into a spiral as much and you're not like so consumed with them. You can coexist with the like negative thoughts and just be okay with them being there and acknowledge them and keep going. There's also a lot of emphasis on values and living in alignment with your values in ACT, which is something that's really important to me in my personal life. So that really resonates as a theory that I draw from, and it shows up in work with clients as well. And then self compassion is what it sounds like. It's about being compassionate towards yourself. I feel like a lot of times when we're struggling with mental health or just in general, there can be a lot of shame and like beating yourself up for not being okay or for not like knowing how to handle things. So self-compassion, I feel is really important to bring in to meet yourself where you're at, accept that things are hard, and give yourself some compassion and grace around that. Like we all struggle, and you don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to navigate things in this perfect way, and that's okay.
I can go next. And I'm nervous.
Yay!
That is probably the MO of me. Cool, let's do a thing. And then the rest of my body emotions fall and they're like, oh, we're scared now. Okay, let's do it anyway. I feel like there's a life lesson in there. Oh, hello, I'm Juliana. I think I've also been in Ventress for maybe about 3 years, more maybe close to 2.5. I don't really keep track. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I love the world of creative imagination, so books, video games, board games, D&D. Those are right up my alley. Lots of fun. I really love diving into creative, imaginary worlds that take me from beyond my own experience and my own self and experience something completely different and new. And I guess that's similar to my therapy as well. I draw from narrative therapy a lot. I draw from IFS. And really, the crown idea is that a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves matter. A lot of the stories that were told to us are the ones that we learn or experience from matter because they help shape us and shape our understanding of the world. And so a lot of therapy with me is about understanding, hey, what's your story? Where did all those elements come from? Where did you learn it from? very curious, very investigative. And then, of course, the big question is, does it actually reflect you? Do you feel like it reflects you?
Mm.
And if it doesn't quite fit, then let's explore what does. A lot of, so we have a little narrative, a lot of IFS, which is internal family systems, which is like looking at different parts of yourself, very TLDR, but also doing a lot of art therapy, a lot of walk and talk, maybe some somatic body sensory stuff. Loosey goosey, but not too loosey goosey is tend to how I tend to do things. Yeah.
Yeah,
How
lots
did
of creativity and exploration and seeing what we can make from what we've been given.
That's such a great and concise way to put it. I love it.
My therapist skills. Paraphrasing.
Yay.
Awesome. Who's next?
I'll go. Hi, I'm Sarada or Sadada. Um, and I've been at Venturous for a year, almost a year and a half. I tend to work with folks and couples and topics like grief and life transitions, anxiety, ADHD stuff, just navigating today's world, navigating identity, multicultural things, family, a lot of like relational stuff comes up in my work with individuals and couples. And the way that I approach that is through a lot of also parts work and some narrative stuff. And I would say it's quite like my approach is quite spacious. So there's lots of space for sprinkles of things. So along with the kind of part stuff and the stories and narratives, there's sometimes some like more creative things that I come up with together with clients that might resonate with them. So you could see that as like art therapy-ish. And sometimes we're exploring what's happening in the body, what's happening with the nervous system. So there's some like somatic stuff there. Yeah, very like collaborative, curious. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good summary, introduction. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking like this. I'm very distracted by the dinosaur shadow on
Oh
Abby's wall. That
yeah.
is, as soon as I said it, it's gone. So
There we go.
there it is.
I
Thank
brought
you.
it back.
Thank you. Yeah, it would have been really bad if you were like, what shadow?
What are you doing? No, we don't do gaslighting here. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
love it though, because it's like kind of cartoony. Anyways, me. Okay.
Fun fact, after you said that, I literally had another session with someone and then they said the same thing. It looks like you have a dinosaur on your shoulder. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
You're not the
really?
first person to say that in the last day. But yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. Part of me wants to get rid of this, but I feel like I should just leave it so folks can, like an Easter egg that you can hunt.
Yeah.
I think you should just paint the dinosaur on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works too. I had a very I'm just gonna touch it a little. Anyway, I don't know. The last time I painted my wall, it like just didn't go. It was a lot of work. So I don't know if I'm gonna paint anything ever again, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
I can echo that.
The two of us with dark green walls are like, I don't know if we should be
Yeah,
painting anymore.
yeah, that was not the relaxing experience that I expected it to be. But
Yeah.
the end result is very calming and relaxing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed,
yeah.
agreed. But yeah, I thought it was funny because as you were speaking, Sarda, I was like, oh, so spaciousness is a huge thing in your practice. And then you started staccatoing your words. I was like, see, there's spaciousness in your sentence too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
leaving lots of space for the non-words.
Yeah.
I honestly am enjoying hearing everyone's introductions, also because I've just been with Ventress for a month, so it's like getting to hear how everyone's navigating, like explaining who they are and like what they're doing, and that's like a ever evolving thing is really cool. So, anyways, hi, I'm Jess, newest to the Venturous team, as I mentioned. Theory modality wise, I'm really excited and getting into art and walk and talk therapy. Things that are creative or things that like are movement based always bring in a lot of energy for me, and hopefully they do for clients too. And then, yeah, there's theories that like I've been captivated by, but I think it again is like something that I'm still like bringing in more knowledge. And I think one of those is like satir theory, which is a family-based theory. And I really relate to the relational side of that, and that whatever happens in therapy is going to not only affect you, but affect your relationships and a ripple effect in that sense. And slowly learning more about like the narrative side with the questions and expanding. If you look at satir, there's a beautiful visual of an iceberg, and I really like the layers of experience that it brings in there and how narrative can add questions to that too. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit of my approach and kind of things that excite me as well. My belief that everyone should keep their intro that they have is it just seems very like authentic to what we're all trying to figure out how to explain.
Yeah. I also want to say that it's not 100% true that you just started with Ventress last month.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. Yes, just started as a counselor, but have been with Ventures for, gosh. Okay, so yeah, because then it would be, oh.
Be like 2 years.
Okay, so yes, two years, yeah, because I started with Abby in my social justice practicum, and then decided I enjoyed spending time with you and continued on to do my practicum as well. So you're right, it has been a lot longer, doing lots of fun community events, some more to come, and yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. You've been with us for a while, and fun fact, all the fun events that you may or may not know that we've been putting on, that was originally Jess's idea. The social justice practicum was way more boring. Before that, it was like transcribing training videos and I think like distributing the database resource that we have, which shameless plug here. If you're needing any free mental health support, we have a free database on our website where you can look up anything that you need support with and get some resources that we would naturally share in session anyway. But yeah, and then we did a drag show.
Yeah.
Instead.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that support to be able to go and do something as community connecting, as creative. And the resources are very cool. So I agree, check them out.
All right, so now that you've met the lovely team, I just want to give an overview. So I'm Abby. Hi. I guess I created Ventress. It feels weird to say that. I feel like we all co-created it together and that it's gone through many iterations to land where it is now. The original, I guess, origin story of Ventress was that it all came together as a bunch of friends wanting to work together and create something different. I think one of the things about Ventress is that community is really important. And so always wanting to do things as like non-hierarchical, as community focused as possible, but also integrating you folks, community members into the work that we're doing, being able to have conversations, run events, and things like that. That's really the spirit of what we're trying to aim for here. Personally, I practice a lot from existential kind of approach, thinking about what the meaning and purpose of our lives are and what are all the contexts and relationships that we have to have with ourselves and each other and the world and how we understand the world in order to be able to move the needle towards the direction that we want for the next generations. And then primarily most of my work now is in clinical supervision and puppy training. I would like to lean into animal partner therapy soon-ish when my puppy has settled down and is not so bitey. Taking her to, I don't know, like community centers and just bringing joy for folks. I think there's definitely a really big need for joy and spaces of connection in this world right now. So that's where I'm headed. I also do a lot of work with like somatics, EMDR, things like that. Really bringing in whatever feels like it could be a fit in that moment and co-creating together what that might look like. Don't usually show up with a plan and then we figure it out together.
Mm.
Yeah. I think in the counseling field, the theories that we subscribe to are kind of like horoscopes or like BuzzFeed questions. Like, what is your personality? It really says a lot about the counselor, what theory that we resonate with, and how we do our sessions. And hopefully that gives us an idea of what sessions would be like with each of us. But also, of course, there's a lot more to that. Theories are just like one tiny layer of the work that we're doing. I think personality, relationship, and things like that are really important. But also part of what Ventress is that we see healing beyond talk therapy looking at different ways we can access our full capacity of what healing looks like outside of this colonial understanding of what counseling can be, and wanting to highlight all the different invitations that you have in your sessions for ways of being and experiencing and all of those pieces. Okay, how do I segue into the questions? I don't know how to segue, so I'm just gonna awkwardly go, let's segue. I think one of the most frequent questions that we get asked in our consults is, how do I know if my counselor is the right fit? Have you folks been asked that before? And like, any thoughts around that?
I think it's hard to say because I feel like it's not really something you can like describe. It's more of like a feeling. At least that's how it is for me. That's how it's been for me as a client going to consults with counselors. I've just had that feeling of, oh, I don't necessarily like feel connected to this person, or oh, I feel like it's really easy to talk to this person. I feel like that's usually an indication of if it's a fit, is that kind of vibe check. It's a very short amount of time. It's 15 minutes to just, you're just getting a snapshot. And sometimes it can be like, oh, like I'm not 100% sure. And then people will book a session and then it feels very different in the session. And you're like, okay, now I'm more sure. Or maybe you're like, oh, this isn't what I was looking for, which maybe isn't reassuring because people are like, I want to know before I book. So I don't know if that's helpful. But I think it's about just a feeling like, is this somebody that I'm like comfortable with? Do I feel like I could open up to them? Because it's a very vulnerable process to go to therapy, to have these sessions that are focused on you and bringing up all of these often heavy topics. And so you want to do that with somebody that you feel comfortable doing that with, somebody that you're like, okay, I can see this feeling okay. And I say feeling okay because like sometimes it doesn't feel good because again, you're talking about stuff that's really heavy. So there definitely will be sessions where you're like uncomfortable, but the relationship with the counselor hopefully shouldn't be contributing to that discomfort. So yeah, I think that's something is mostly just a feeling. But also we all talked about our theories and approaches. Sometimes that can be something that matters to people if they're like, I'm looking for something very specific, a specific approach or style that can help you see if it's a fit.
Just thinking about, yeah, that like feeling that vibe check was the first thing that popped into my head. And then also how that's like the starting point of the relationship. And so, yeah, that's like important to start with the like intuitive gut check. And then you
Yeah.
can play into just building that relationship over time, because it might take time to also like feel comfortable to share those bigger things. But I think like in terms of fit, I think that I might also go for like where there's values or like identities that the counselor holds, experiences that might be ones that you're going through, or and everyone's going to go through a unique kind of a unique context of that, but that can be helpful to know that perhaps the counselor has some experience with something you're struggling with, or just want to have someone understand.
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference. There are some experiences that you don't necessarily want to have to explain in session, like that you just want. I think that goes into a big part of what you were saying too, Parveen, about the relationship or the fit. There's an unspoken understanding. In disability justice, they call it access intimacy. I think Mia Mingus was the one who coined that. And I really think about that in the context of consults. Is there this feeling of like easy access to connection and feeling supported with this person that you're talking to? And also, I think this might be not very common, but for me, myself personally, I'm always looking for somebody who's willing to call me on my shit, who's willing to challenge me, but in a loving way, right? In a way where I don't feel like I'm being judged and I don't feel like I'm being ousted from community, but also not necessarily looking for a counselor that's just validating everything that I'm saying. and will ask me questions that I haven't thought of before, or be like, okay, you just said this, and I know you think this. Like, how do those two things come together? Helping me make sense of things so that I'm not trapped in like I'm not trapped in my own cycle almost. I think that's something that we don't have a lot of in this world, especially with the rise of AI. Side note, I just wrote a newsletter on that, which is why my mind went that way. But yeah, thinking about not necessarily like even questioning and deconstructing what safety means, right? How do you know when you're safe with the person that you're talking to? Is it that they will agree with everything that you're saying, or is it that there's like a lovingness associated in that relationship? So some of those pieces are coming up for me.
I was just thinking about access to counseling too. Like sometimes the fit is what's accessible to you
Yeah.
as well, which can be hard, really hard to navigate if then the counselor you land with doesn't feel like the right fit, but you need the support, or that's your first point of support. There may be ways to get creative in that sense, but still it can be like finally getting to a counselor and then you're not sure if it's the right fit or you're trying to figure that out. And that can all just be really messy in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was saying too about sometimes, again, the consult is so short and you only like some of the things that you were saying, Abby, about is your counselor going to call you out and challenge you and all these things? Like some of that stuff you maybe won't get a full feel for in a consult. Like you can ask if they're comfortable doing that, but like sometimes you don't really get that sense until you're like have an established relationship and you're experiencing that in the session. And I think that can be really disappointing. It's not the right word, but I can't think of what word I'm trying to use. Deflating is coming up. If you're like finally getting to a point of, I'm going to try counseling and I'm going to do this, and then you go to a consult or you start sessions and like it doesn't feel good, it can feel very like defeating. This isn't doing what it's supposed to do. This isn't helping. Yeah, I put that out there more, not to be like, maybe it won't be a fit and you have to go to a session and it still won't be a fit, but more to be like, that's okay. It's not going to be a fit with every single person. There's so many different types of counselors. There's so many different approaches that people use. That doesn't mean that like counseling isn't going to work for you or this is my only option. It's something that you have to try out and see if you're like, actually, I want to go a different direction. I want to try a different style. I want to try, yeah, something else that I haven't done before and see what works. In that event that people feel discouraged that like it's not working the way they expect it to, it might be not the right fit.
Yeah. I think it also depends on the phase that you are in your life or what you're talking
Yeah.
about too. I always normalize folks having more than one point of contact for support. Sometimes you just want somebody you're in a space where you want something that's really nurturing, and the counselor that you see is more challenging. And then you can choose like what spaces of support you need to. This might be a hot take, but personally, I think there's a very monogamous understanding of what a relationship should be like too in counseling, that you need to only see one counselor, and if you can't make that work then something's wrong with either counseling or your counselor or you or the relationship. And sometimes it's just there are multiple people that can support you. There are multiple access points. Everybody is a little bit different, even if we say similar things or we've gone through the same training. And so, really thinking about what fit looks like in what point, having more nuanced analysis of that. Nuanced analysis sounds very like scary to say it in that way, but like knowing your gut and your intuition of what you need in that moment. Yeah.
There's an aspect of flexibility when it comes to fit. There's an aspect of, oh, fit can change over time, I think is what I'm gathering too. As I'm sitting listening to everyone, I'm thinking, my brain just goes, oh, it's the kombucha girl meme. Where if you see the full meme, she goes, this woman is trying kombucha for the first time. And it's like she goes through all different like emotions, go, ooh, mm, no. No. and And I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that's fit right there. In a sense where it's this, you give it some time for you to experience it. And then you realize, oh, okay, yeah, actually, I don't really like kombucha. Or maybe you might, or maybe at a second taste, at a later date, it tastes great to you. I wonder if that's like what counseling is. Albeit I understand too, like sometimes when folks come in, everything's coming in really hot, it's very, really scary, it's very intense, they really need support. And I think probably you named it really well, how deflating can be where it's I'm in this place of desperation and I'm trying to get help and it doesn't quite pan out. Yeah, that is hard. That is really hard. And I think it just speaks to the point of why we need more than just one. We need a whole group of us. Why community is important. Kind of. I don't know if this is coming into a left field, but these are my thoughts.
No, that makes so much sense to me. I'm even thinking about, oh, actually, that just flew out of my head. I don't know what I was going to say. Oh, feedback, right? Like how important feedback is in terms of determining if your counselor is a fit, right? Like how much say do you have in co-creating that unique relationship that you have with your counselor or counselors? Thinking about, if you share whether or not something is working or not, are they going to be responding in a way that will support you to create something that will work later on? Like with all the different expressions that you had, Juliana, I was thinking, okay, maybe that was one piece of feedback, and then we tried something and it didn't work, and then we tried something else and we tried something else. And I think Parveen, you were speaking to that too, of you have to explore the process in order to know what you need or what is a right fit in that moment.
Yeah, I feel like from listening to everyone, how you would know if a counselor is a good fit is you will know. You need to trust yourself. That's like a big ask, but I think what I'm like hearing and putting together from what everyone is saying is like fit doesn't necessarily mean like it's going to feel perfect. Like a fit is not perfection. It's more like someone that you can be in process with, someone that even that relationship with, you feel like you can offer, you can be perceived, you can share, you can be okay hearing things in it. There needs to be enough flexibility and malleability and mutual willingness, but it's not about it being like, you're going to meet this person and it's going to be like, oh, everything feels like perfect and safe forever because that's just not really what any relationship is. And a therapy relationship is a relationship with another human. It's obviously different in many ways from other relationships, but yeah.
I think that's named something really important. A lot of folks, because of how harmful our society can be, how much urgency culture is ingrained in all of us, that we come into counseling being like, oh, I need to fix this problem. First of all, you are not a problem to be fixed. And counseling is really about this relational piece of being with in that process and finding someone that can support you in that process in a way that feels like this is going to sound really cheesy, but I always tell myself when I say this sounds really cheesy that even lactose intolerant people like cheese. So I'm going to say the cheesy thing, which is like the beautiful thing is in the imperfection of creating something, right? That's how you weather the storm of and build like sustaining relationships. And I think it's important to be able to invite that into the process of finding your fit. This is not to say that if a counselor does anything that's really harmful for you, that you have to engage in that context. I just want to put that out front too. I think we're all speaking to this as if like we're just going into the process and like in general. And I want to acknowledge that there are a lot of harm that can be happening in counseling sessions as well. And knowing the difference between what is like a natural process of co-creating versus this is really not okay with me and I don't want to engage anymore. That's very valid as well.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll wrap up with that. So we had a plan for answering 5 questions. We actually ended up talking a lot more about the first question. So we're gonna end it off here and maybe plan in the future to answer one question in one video, seeing as we want to be able to bring in a lot of nuance in our answers and really give something that isn't a standard. I'm gonna Google this, and I think there's a lot of co-creation in the way that we're answering this too, which I think is really valuable. So, note to self, next episode is going to have one question and one question only. We'll touch upon the things that we said we will in this first episode. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks you folks for being part of this. And we'll see you in the next one.
Yay.